Hey friends, Paloma here, and welcome to my old craft room. If you are new here, then you probably don't know that my house has completely cycled and my craft room is no longer in this space. It has moved into an open area in my house, and that means I have had to change the vibe entirely. While it was in this closed room, it could look like this because it wouldn't clash with the rest of my house, but now it cannot look like this. All because the rest of my house is 100% vintage vibes with sustainable material, refurbished furniture, and no plastics. Though I know many of you will miss this space, and so will I see this as an opportunity to prove to you that my organization systems and foundations work for any vibe or style, even if you are a full-on maximalist like me, or on a small budget, of course. And I wanted to show that it is okay to embrace the changes that no longer suit you. Creativity is a form of expression, but for some of us, it is in our souls to be creative, and we need a space to do that, no matter how small or how large. I am a creative doer. That means that my life includes creative things regularly. It's just that now it's going to look a little different. Of course, if you prefer this vibe, I will leave the video link down below for you for this room tour. But I hope that for now you will hang out with me and walk through my new creative space using the same systems for 2023. Now I welcome you to my new craft room. A little bit about my thought process. When moving into this space, I knew I had to keep a few things in mind. First, I'm a visual person. For me, out of sight, out of mind. Second, all of my systems are and must be easy to access. One step in, one step out. Otherwise, it would be a mess in this space, and I simply cannot have that because it's in my living space. We can all see it. Third, I have to reduce the modern vibe, which means reducing the use of my favorite, beloved, white IKEA $20 bookshelves and all of my clear plastic containers. Last, I have to do all of that while on a small budget because I do not ever want this space to be a burden or riddled with guilt over spending too much. And I have to keep the line of sight flowing into the rest of my house, which means it must have all of the vintage vibes. Next, let's talk organization. Not the fun stuff like what we have and where, but more like the foundation, which is where we put it and why. Many of us creators struggle with our craft surrounding us in a stressful and sometimes overwhelming manner, but imagine being surrounded with those very same pieces, having it feel like a total vibe and a nice warm hug instead. Imagine finding what you need when you need it without spending your creative, inspired time hunting. How do we do that? Simple. It's your organization foundation. First, you need a home station. It will be the center of your mind's creative flow. Doesn't mean you have to be in the center of your space. It just means that your supplies will flow from that main point where you do the majority of your work. From there, you need to categorize all of your supplies. And yes, that does mean doing the hard thing and touching every piece of everything and putting it into a category. Yes, that also means figuring out what does not suit you and your creative style anymore. Get rid of it. Gift it. Donate it, call someone to pick it up, but let it go, and trust me, you will be fine, and you'll actually feel a lot better about your stash. Once you've done that, we will think of your creative space as a flow. For me, it works to organize my entire life in order of importance and use from top to bottom, left to right. Top being the least accessed, the bottom being the most, the left being the least, to the right being the most. Also keeping in mind one step in, one step out systems to ensure that cleaning is a breeze. Now let's take a look at my home station. This is my worktop station. This is where all of the work gets done. I'm a standing crafter, so I do have a nice tall workspace to work at. As this space stands, it is 4 feet 2 inches long, 2 feet 1 inches wide, and 3 feet 3 inches tall. This space actually used to be double the length. The hubby actually cut it down in the previous house when I wanted to have a workstation that was kind of like an island. But it used to be my extreme couponing desk where I would hold all of my inserts, do my breakdowns, and also do my crafty project things. I kept this half because I did want a small island style workspace when we moved to this house. And when we moved to this space, I wanted to give it a little bit of an upgrade. On the top of this little wood desk, it used to be white with a flat top, and the hubby actually added an extension on it for me using some scrap wood to give me a wider work surface and a natural wood element because I didn't like the white top anymore. Let's talk about how I made this kind of more functional for me. So before, the desk was just a freestanding desk. It didn't have this frame that goes around the side of it. It didn't have the floating shelves above it. That came to be because when we moved in this space, this room actually has 22-foot ceilings that have a very steep slope. So I wasn't going to be able to hang any lights here and have it look reasonable. So I asked the hubby to add a wood frame that went around the desk so that I could be able to hang my softbox light and put a mount. It worked out well, but I do have to make modifications because the light is right overhead and I don't like it. It has a really harsh glare. I'm going to have to modify that, and I'll just shift it from one side to the other and figure out what works best, but that is going to change. Either way, having this frame around the edge actually helped this space become more functional in many different ways. It allowed me to create some floating shelves using scrap wood. And I just lined the back of this with a curtain that I got from Goodwill for like $2.50. It adds a very pretty, feminine, kind of dainty touch, but it also prevents you from being able to see through this space because there is no back. And on the other side, I do have a backless hutch, and I wanted the light to be able to go through still into the back of that other hutch. So this curtain just adds the perfect little touch and also serves as a function to let that light through. On the frame, I actually used Dollar Tree hooks to hang all of my cutting boards. All of these boards are so bulky and they don't stack well. I didn't want to put them on a surface using the plate racks from Dollar Tree because I didn't want to take up any like prime real estate flat work surface because I was going to be more limited to my available storage. So I just put the Dollar Tree hooks on here, put all of my cutting boards. It's super simple. You don't bump into them. You don't knock them off. They don't stack on each other and just fall all over the place. And you don't have to have a nice big space to put them in. You just stack them vertically and they work. And there's another one on the other side as well. Previously in my other craft room, I had the white bookshelves serving as the foundation for different stations. I used to have an entire bookshelf for washi. I had curtain rods in between the bookshelves holding the washi in all of the different colors and patterns, and they were kind of color coordinated, just, similar colors in a group. And then all of the overflow washi would be in containers towards the bottom. I had to be selective with my stations. I decided to go with the stations that had the least plastic storage and keep those until I'm able to replace these last two bookshelves with wood bookshelves. Now in doing so, I actually had to make hard decisions and pick the washi that I knew was my vibe. Now don't get me wrong, I do have one bin or box that I allow myself to have overflow washi in, and I do have containers of washi that I pair with junk journals to give as ephemera when I sell my junk journals. So I still have a stash of washi. But as far as my personal use supply, this is the majority of what I have, and I have allowed myself one box to grow. So that box is where I keep some of the multiple prints, backup washi, other styles that I just don't have up here, and we will look at that later. But it is the one space where I allow myself to just have a little more if I want it, so I don't feel pressured all the time about what I do have or what I chose to keep. So in this space, I use my frame of this area to put some scrap wood across and create a photo ledge type situation. On the top one, it has a back and a bottom piece, and I just put a curtain rod along the front. And these actually used to be in the clear plastic Dollar Tree organizers all the way across. And then I just asked myself, what are you doing? Why do they need to be in an organizer if you're trying to reduce plastic? So I just took them out of the container, what a concept, and just put a curtain rod across the front so that they wouldn't roll off if they decided to get a little wiggle wobbly along this top shelf. On the second shelf, it's a scrap wood floating shelf. Now, mind you, here at the Bates house, we do a lot of projects. When we moved in, we had to redo the railing around the house. We had a lot of deck boards outside. So much going on here at the Bates house because we live out in the country. We do a lot of things. So we always have scrap wood on hand, but even if you don't have scrap wood on hand, the small, thin, basic pieces of wood at Home Depot are super cheap. You could create photo ledges easily for many spaces in your craft space for many different types of things, which you will see us kind of go over in this room. Anyway, I got some cardboard packaging from one of the hubby's packages for car parts, and I just put them across the back of this shelf, and they're a little taller than the back board. So it allowed it to have like a little inset space to put more washi with a little lip so that it wouldn't fall off. And I like that because then I didn't have to stack it on top of here and not be able to see it. So I just put those pieces of trash in there, and to me it just adds the perfect little extra space to store the large, wide washi rolls that would take up quite a bit of space on the actual shelf. On this bottom shelf, we're looking at the exact same concept, except this one has a higher back on it because previously this curtain wasn't here to hold anything on the shelf. And I wanted to make sure that whatever was on this shelf had a high enough back so that it wouldn't fall off, because I knew this was going to be the shelf where everything was that I was going to be reaching for the most often. So here we just have different types of glues. I have a cup that I like to keep water in whenever I'm doing glue projects or paint projects. A little organizer holding some little notepads in case I have to jot something down real quick. A Pyrex refrigerator glass just holding some puncture tools, texture tools, whiteout, glue tape, things like that. Little jar with little office supply tools that aren't as cute, like a staple remover or a pencil sharpener. And then I have some cute flower frogs holding erasers, blades, and fun little tools. I do have my unraveling washi in 3 plastic containers. I used to have the perfect system for my unraveling washi because, mind you, I'm not eliminating everything in this office that I loved previously because I don't love it anymore. I'm eliminating it because the style has to be different to function in the rest of my house and give me peace. So I decided to keep these little containers for my unraveling washi, but the system that I had previously was perfect. Check out the other video for that. On this front ledge here, I just keep a magnetic knife bar, I guess, so that you would have in your kitchen. And I use it to hold all of my metal tools for cutting, hole punching, piercing, tweezers. This is the stuff that I use the most often for all of the things. I have them here. They stick there just fine. I love them there. I have a little hook here that holds my measuring strips and rulers. If you don't know, I do everything with blades. I cut everything with a blade and a ruler. And that is pretty much it for this bottom shelf. Underneath that, on the actual desktop surface, I have a cute little sewing supplies organizer that I found at the thrift store, and I want to say it was like $4. I just keep all of the paperclip type things in here, so when I'm junk journaling, I have all of the different types of clips that I need to hold pages and hold stuff together, all that jazz. And then in this one tin, I have larger clips. In these 2 Jameson alcohol bottles, I actually get these from my neighbor whenever he has them. I'm like, give me your bottles, dude, because I'll repurpose them for my apothecary, because I do have a growing apothecary in my canning pantry. And I just like to repurpose them for functional things in the house that are in plastic containers. I put acetone in one and 91% alcohol in the other because these are perfect for adhesives, cleaning, sanitizing, all that good stuff, thinning stuff out. This is the best. I get my acetone from Dollar Tree and I get my 91% alcohol from Walmart. This is a recent little find, so it doesn't really have a home. I just found it the other day. I think today is Wednesday. I found it on Monday for 99 cents, and it's a vintage little spinny thing, and I want to say it was for maybe shave brushes. It was $1. It's totally my vintage vibe. It's black, very Tim Holtz-ish. So I was super excited to find it because I don't have many of these ink blending kind of dauber style tools. So this for me is perfect. I only have a select few of these because I only want as many as I would actually use while doing a project. You know, you don't use 400 colors unless you're just like really into it. So I'm thinking that maybe ordering 3 more of these little handles from Temu will be just enough because I actually have a different system for organizing all the pads, as you can see. So I don't need to have a display with 400 of these because you change the Velcros out and you only need so many at one time. That being said, found this for $1. I'm keeping it. Don't know where I'm going to put it yet, but it's probably going to be on the ink station. I have a little cat tin. This has my ginger candy in it, which I love. I have this little pink depression glass dish. It's actually just for anything small on the tabletop when I need to kind of set something aside, don't want it to get lost. A lot of the times I'll take my jewelry off over here because I usually wear all of my rings. I'll take my jewelry off here, I'll take my watch off, whatever's bothering me, and I'll put it in this little dish. If I have little paper clips or something I don't want to lose, it'll go in the dish. The dish just stays empty unless I need it. In this Wedgwood style tin, I have rolls and sheets of foam tape and sticky tape, double-sided tape, all that is in there. I have a container of ink wipes that I found on clearance at Hobby Lobby and an actual Wedgwood vase holding my short blade scissors and a chunky bone folder. In this amber glass jar, ginger jar, I actually have the lid back there because I don't want it to get lost, but I just keep all of my black pens and markers that I want to use and don't want to keep in the station that the kids will access, which is actually right over there. And I'll explain why, because, you know, young boys don't care about a lot of things when it comes to being pretty. So I keep the things that I like and want to use and make sure I have on hand in this jar. So it's just full of black pens and markers. I just keep a little plate stand here for books, my phone, whatever I need it for, pictures, all that. It just stays there for when I need it. And here's a look at the burnt wood top that the hubby put on for me. I absolutely love it. I wanted something that looked natural, so when I would be showing anything, then you could see the wood and all of its beauty in the background. And I do have this gray mat or transparent mat. It is the Vantage cutting mat, 24 by 18. I got this years ago. It's a self-healing mat and it has held up amazingly. I cut everything with a blade and a ruler and this thing has shockingly not cut through. I'm so amazed by it. I do junk journals on here. I cut all of the ribbons for my backdrops on here. Anything you can possibly think of, fabrics, all of it. I cut it on this mat and it has held up amazingly. I do have 2 tape dispensers on here. One is just regular clear tape. One is heat tape for sublimation or anything with the heat press. And then along the back, I just have this really cute kind of library shelf vintage books vibe. I just got this liner from Daiso for under $2 and I just ran it over some cardboard and just laid it across the back and I love it. It is so cute. Covers the hole. I just think it's perfect. I loved it. It was a great little touch for a couple bucks. Next is probably one of my favorite organization pieces that I could have come up with. So about a year ago, I shared this idea with you guys using a very small souvenir spoon rack. It wasn't detailed, it didn't have the labels, none of that. But I did share it on Instagram, and I kind of didn't go back to it because I kind of knew that I was going to need a bigger organizer, and it was going to have to be kind of substantial to hold all of my brushes. So all of these ink blending brushes are actually from Dollar Tree. They are the Sassy and Chic makeup brushes. So I got them for $1 to $1.25. Also, they have a very Tim Holtzy vibe. They're black, very pretty, clean looking, and they kind of maintain that vintage look I'm going for. So this rack was actually a $25 find at an antique store. I knew I was going to have to hold out for one because they go for easy $65, $75 for this size. When I saw it for $25, I snagged it so fast, walked through the entire store with it. Like I was just in shock, in love, all the feels. I put some vintage hinges on it that I gutted from another furniture piece because I do refurbish furniture and I keep all of the hardware. And it allowed it to be this kind of hinge moment where I can actually open it up whenever I need to get back here, and then I can close it, and it just looks so cute, right? Because it's like a vintage detail, got crafty things on it, it has some color inspiration, all of the good things. On each one of these rows, it holds 10 brushes. Each one of the brushes is labeled as well as on their space in the actual rack. On each one of the labels, I used masking tape and the actual ink from the coordinated ink. And I came through here with watered down wood glue every couple of hours for about 3 days and added a nice little thin coat to the label. That way it would hold it in place for a very long time, and it just gives it a nice smooth finish. I did the same thing to the paper label, just added some wood glue over it as well, ensuring that this label will not peel up as I put the brush on and pull the brush off. I did it for all 3 of the little sections, and another fun touch that I added was taking screenshots of the ink image and just kind of doing a Canva layer thing and adding that to the back of each one of these sections. That way, whenever I looked over to this space, I could get some creative inspiration from the colors that I know that I have, which are already labeled and ready to go. I do have more brushes available to coordinate to specific colors, but I have not decided what I want those to be, so I'm just going to leave those blank until I'm ready to put together another sequence of 10. On the backs, they are numbered in order from 1 to 10 from left to right, depending on the inks that I had and the way I'm able to lay it out on the image. It's very simple, so whenever I'm digging in my little crafty stash, I can just look over and be like, what inks do I want to use? And then just look over, kind of see the color, and grab whatever it is that I need. And I love the way it looks. On the back, it's pretty much the same concept. I just added some fun, distressed vibes to the back of this shelf. Now, in this area, we do have a ceiling fan and we have a window that will be opened, so there will be a lot of wind pulling through this area, and our house gets kind of warm. We're 11 feet in the air, heat rises, all that good stuff. So I did kind of want to protect the ink blending sponges. So I found these little containers on Temu. They were, I think, $1.88 for like 38 or something like that, something crazy. And I think it's a great idea to kind of preserve that ink that's on each one of these blending pads. I don't want to reach for it one day and have it feel kind of hard or thick. I don't know if it's possible, but I didn't want it to happen. So I just bought the containers, felt like it was a great little touch to keep them organized. Plus I can grab what I need and it's all back here. It stays up just fine. I use Dollar Tree Velcro dots, just added a little glue behind them to make sure that they hold in place. Did the same thing with the labels, took the actual blending pad and color coordinated the paper label, coated it with some thinned out wood glue, labeled it with a nice black marker, and if there was a change in ink, I just wrote it down here on the bottom. So this is Archival Fern Green. Very easy to understand. And I do like the fact that it's on the back, so you don't have to see the plastics from the front. So cute, probably one of my favorite touches. So I don't have this in the ink station because I love to look at my ink station. I did not want this rack covering any of my ink station. So I felt like since it is a tool, I could keep it here, and whenever I decide to ink blend, I can access my brushes easily and I don't have to go to the ink station to do it. I can grab all my inks, bring them over, and I just have the tool here ready to go. So that is pretty much a full look at the top part of this workstation, which is my home station. Now let's move down to the bottom half. In this lower portion, we have 3 shelves. On these 3 shelves, I used to have only the large paper pad storage containers. It was a nice, clean look, but it was also a little overwhelming when you looked in this space, and that was the first thing that you saw coming from the other side of the house, and that's kind of part of what made me frustrated by this space, looking over and seeing all that plastic, because again, it's just not the vibe in the rest of my house. So we're going to look at what I did to reduce that substantially by shopping my house and not really finding anything anywhere else for any money. So this is what it looks like behind the curtain, right? Up top, we still have some clear plastic containers that are covered with my little curtain fabric, and they are holiday specific or category specific. So we have Halloween and Christmas containers, and then we have a napkins bin, solid color paper, and miscellaneous mix. These are basically the papers that I'm not going to kind of have an entire category for, so they're just in these little containers. I can grab them if I want to have some filler paper in any junk journal or whatever it is that I'm doing. In this little brown kind of bread box, I found this thrifting. I just have some hardware in here. There's little feet for wood storage. There's little S-hooks and some brads. And there's other stuff down in there, but that's just kind of like the hardware that I would use for kind of like projects, but I don't have like a full system or storage that I need for it. Here I have this big box from Daiso. It's just a hard cardboard box. I've used it for storage in the other parts of my office, and I just had it kind of hanging out, left over. This is one box that I do aim to replace with either a tin or a picnic basket. It's just filled with tea stained paper, coffee stained paper, stuff like that, vintage filler paper or vintage style filler paper for junk journals. Behind that, I have 2 storage containers. This one is a metal biscuit tin. Very cute. It's nice and large, and it's full of hard and paper game ephemera. And this one is full of jewelry making tools. I don't have a full set of jewelry making tools yet, but I do want to do it. So I'm slowly building up what I can and putting it in this actual toolbox. It's actually a lunchbox from back in the day. I think it's an antique. Used to be a thermos lunchbox holder. Very cool, all metal, very rustic. And so I have my actual tools in there. This is the one that I was most happy about because I literally didn't have to do anything but shop my house. And I used to have a massive picnic basket collection, right? Like I had so many picnic baskets, it's unreal. And I still have quite a few. I put them around for decor and I use them as, you know, functional pieces and whatnots. But this was awesome because they are very large picnic baskets, so they hold quite a bit of product. This one here holds all of my junk journal filler paper things. It's not vintage authentic, but it's just really cool papers to kind of layer into your junk journals. Here I have my medical herbalism book and my guide to wild plants or edible plants or whatever, and a cutting mat that I made. But it's really nice to have this super large picnic basket. It's very sturdy and durable. You open it up and it's full of vintage authentic papers. So there are so many different types of papers in here. I have military paper, I have notebook paper, there are book pages in here, just stuff that I found, newspaper clippings and stuff. It's all in here, and I use this in junk journaling to layer on fun pages. And the basket is so big that it holds so much, and it's not even full yet, so I have plenty of room to grow. Down here at the bottom is basically where I store all of my paper pads. Taking them out of the containers actually saved so much room, it's unreal. I did purge all of the paper pads that I knew were just not going to ever be my style. I was never going to get any use out of, and I didn't want to make junk journals with, because I can actually make junk journals with different types of patterns that aren't necessarily my personal style, because they're fun to play with, fun to create, and then somebody out there will love them and buy them. But I wanted to hold on to the majority of things that I was inspired by. So the ones that I will let go of and make junk journals with are on a little rolling cart with existing projects. So these are all of the rest of what's left. I've kind of stuck to very basic categories, and over here it's all theme specific. So we have Day of the Dead, pumpkin spice, coffee theme, it's like baking theme, stuff like that. If it's a theme specific, it's right there. This is all backgrounds. So basically full pages of things that kind of fall towards the back of your sheet whenever you're layering on patterns and whatnots. A lot of backgrounds here. And then here we have vintage and floral. For me, vintage and floral kind of just goes hand in hand. They always wind up together whenever I'm crafting. So vintage theme and floral specific all go here. And then I just have a few small containers with some 6x6s and some paper packs that are kind of like a massive stack of different things in one style of print that include like punch out paper envelopes, punch out paper pages, punch out this, that, and the other, coordinating sheets and all that go into there. It's very simple to understand, and it's a lot less hectic with a lot less plastic by just shopping my house and using what I already had to kind of reduce the visual chaos in this space. Now that you've seen what's in my home station, we can move on to everything else. One of the ways to know if your system works is to pay attention to the amount of walking around aimlessly that you catch yourself doing. A good system does not require too much roaming around, unless you're trying to get visually inspired. Otherwise, less travel equals less distraction, equals less mess, equals less digging, and more creative time. In my systems, I know what direction I'm headed in depending on the supplies that I need, because the least often reached for will be to the left, the most often reached for will be to the right. Easy. So let's take a look at what stations start to the left of my work area. So to the furthest left of my workstation is this area here. There's quite a few things going on here because of the fact that this is also the home charging station for my boys' cell phones and devices. They don't sleep with their tablets and phones in the room. All of that stays out here overnight. They get it in the morning and they put it back before bed. So this is an area of my office that I do not access much because it serves other purposes. We're going to start off with that just to get it out of the way. The boys charge their phones here. All of their cords just kind of hang out here. There's a notepad here if they need it, and there's an organizer here for devices. Sometimes for art, they have to use layering, so they have light plates here. They're just basically kind of like light tablets that light up real bright and they can trace. And then we have other tablets there and some notepad paper if they need it when doing homework or if I have to write a letter or something like that. In this first cabinet, there is nothing creative or fun. It's just a container of tools for in the house, like a level, measuring tape, stuff like that. Containers of batteries and extension cords and chargers. Very simple, self-explanatory, nothing fun. So that kind of covers this area. We're going to talk about the rest of everything here. Of course, this was done on a budget because if you know anything about antiquing or thrifting, you know that these babies here are not cheap. I found a roll top desk for $200 on Facebook and I was not willing to pay that. I waited and waited and the guy put it down to 50 bucks. I ran, I snagged it. My initial thought was to refurbish it, but that sucker weighed way too much. So by the time I actually moved it, got the work done, got it sold, got someone who could actually pick it up, I was like, yeah, no, I'm cutting my losses and I'm getting my money's worth out of material. So I gutted the entire thing, kept all of the pieces for scrap and kept all of the hardware, and especially kept this organizer. A really great organizer like this from a roll top desk goes for buku dollars, and I paid $50 for all of the products that I got off of my desk, which was all well worth the $50. And I could, if I sold it all, I could make well beyond that, but I'm not going to because I want to use it. So this organizer was from a roll top desk that I paid $50 for, and if we took the average cost, it's probably like a $5 organizer. In this organizer, I have things that the kiddos can use as well as myself, and then I dressed it up a little bit with some decorative pieces because, of course, we love our vintage decor and we need to be able to incorporate it into these spaces. Now, all of my boys take art, and one of them is in art 2, I believe. So they're always using supply type things, crafty type things for those projects. And this side, I wanted to make sure that I could keep things here that they could access and not necessarily have to walk all the way into my office. And since they're already here messing with all of these things, they could have it close by. On this first little cubby, I have chalkboards. This is for parties and events. I always price things or label things or whatever and use these little chalkboards. I use the liquid chalkboard markers and then alcohol to clean them. I have some colored chalk here. Very simple, self-explanatory. I don't use it too often. I use it for events and for special occasions and for parties and stuff like that. So it stays on this side. It's here when I need it. It's not in the way if I don't. Here I have 4 cubbies. This one is black pens. This one is binder clips, colored pens, and gel crayons and crayons. Black pens because the kiddos always need them when they're doing homework. Binder clips. It's just a bunch of binder clips, whether the kids need them or I need them. Colored pens, when they have to do different notes and label different things. Gel crayons and crayons. Very self-explanatory. I have these here because I don't... I know it's going to sound weird. I have these here because I would rather them grab this container and go and not travel further in here where my crayons are. So I have those there, easy for them to grab. And if that's not enough, or if multiple kids are doing projects, I have another box here that's just here because I didn't have anywhere else to put it. So that's what's in here. Under here, I have a large paper cutter. I don't use this often anymore in the craft room. I used to use this for coupon inserts, but it is great for a festival or something like that when we're sending out flyers, maybe for movie night or whatever in the neighborhood, because I'm a part of the women's group in the neighborhood where we put on events and we have a lot of fun. So anyway, sometimes we got to cut up quite a few flyers. This is perfect for that. So I've kept it because it still works and it serves all of the functions and I love it. So there's that. In the little cubbies here, we have some colored markers. I have some trays and some sticky, what is that stuff? Just the sticky tack. These are just things that I grab for whenever I need them. An extra phone stand for whatever. Here we have some dry erase pencils, another thing of crayons, a stapler. We always use these things. So these are often reach for product, but they don't have to come too far into my office if they need it. More markers, some twist crayons, and then the smell good markers, which actually I have not opened and I don't let the kids use either because I gave them a full box and these are overflow and they're just going to stay there because I love the fact that I have them. So they're there. Here we have some chalk just for fun. And then some extra notepads and a clipboard just in case we need it. I always grab this when I have to jot something down. I just yank it out of here and I just write on it. Here we have colored pencils, markers. That's like highlighters, glitter markers, different types of markers that are just kind of like not a set. Here we have pencils, erasers, pencil sharpener, big eraser, stuff like that, extra lead. Here we have chalkboard and permanent markers. This is my favorite drawer. I use all of this all of the time and I absolutely love it. All of these are fantastic for chalkboard surfaces and glass. And then these are perfect for glass. I found a new box for $2 the other day at the thrift store and I haven't put anything in it yet, but it's super cute. When it comes to boxes like this and they're all tattered and beat up, I do like to just run a darker stain over them to fill in any cracks and gaps or scratches or anything, just to kind of give it a new refreshed life. And then I will use it to organize. So I don't know what I'm using this one for. I just got it. This is the other item that I found on Monday, and I'm just keeping it here so it's here whenever I'm ready for it. I decide what I want to do with it. These are actually Daiso organizers that I absolutely love. These, I believe, were $3, which you could probably make it for $3, but also, like, did I feel like it? No, I didn't. I found these pencils at Dollar Tree. I just got them so Biggie could have a fun little Halloween pencil. As a matter of fact, I need to give them to him so he can take some to school. Here are the Colors of the World crayons, super cute. And then I recently found these little colored retractable pencils from Dollar Tree. So adorable. I love these little boxes. I'm going to stain it darker, but we've been busy with Halloween parties, and this weekend we're going to Round Top, and you know, all the pre-holiday season stuff is coming up. Crayons for myself that I don't want them to mess with, and just some felt tip, a super tip, whatever crayon markers that I want to keep to myself are all in here. So if you can't tell, this is very much my writing supplies station, which is very appropriate because then it leads up into other types of not writing, but kind of painting supplies. So now that we've taken a look at the most often reached for supplies in this space, let's go ahead and take a look at the station as a whole from top to bottom. So this is my writing supplies, but this entire station is more of my refill, not so often reached for product. Starting at the top, we have a little decorative shelf. This is a scrap wood photo ledge that I just made so that I could put some pictures up here. My friend actually runs the Girl Scouts crew here in the neighborhood, and they did a fundraiser. We went and bought some of the goodies, and their art sits on this little shelf. And I paired it with some vintage frames and some fun little vintage pieces to kind of blend it into this space. This wood shelf was actually barebacked, and it was very simple looking. I believe I got it for $7.99, and it is a gorgeous wood shelf. It is totally vintage. I love it. And this is when the hubby had the idea to line things with the curtain fabric on the back to kind of create a back for it and also add a little feminine touch so that it's not so masculine looking. And it was literally the best idea. I swear he always has the best ideas. On this top shelf, I have more decor pieces because, of course, I can't reach up here unless I have a stool, which I'm standing on now. And I figured that is the best way to incorporate some of my little decor pieces and pieces that I love just for fun by making it take up a high space and then filling in the rest that I can reach with functional refill pieces. On the actual shelves, we have refill tools such as glue bottles, rolls of tape, glue tape. We have tools that can kind of get bent and out of shape. Like if you do a lot of hole punching into plastics, you guys know that the hole punch will kind of wear down, and then the hands or the grips kind of bend. And then after a while, you can't even punch because it doesn't apply enough pressure, all that good stuff. So I always have dollar store hole punches on hand. We have some extra magnets, some tools, extra stain, a little piggy bank from when I pulled change out of my pocket in this space, so on and so forth. On the bottom shelf, we have fun paints that I have thrifted or found on clearance at Hobby Lobby or found at dollar stores, because these are the basic staple type items that I do use randomly for different craft projects. Now, this does not include my furniture stuff because all of that is outside in the BatesHouse workshop. All of the big furniture, paints, and stuff like that all stay outside. We don't bring that into the house. This is just for small, fun, crafty little things. Along the side of that, I have this little rack. Now, this was the original rack for my ink blending brushes, and you see how small it is compared to the other one. So this one just holds some antique spoons that I will eventually be using whenever I learn how to make jewelry out of antique utensils. Underneath that, I have a brass wall pocket with an adorable crafty little ceramic piece. I found that for $1 and I thought it would look adorable just attached to that pocket, and I'm glad I did it because she adds such a cute little feminine touch. And it's just a wall pocket to hold my extra large glue sticks. Next to that, I have some craft tools. We have some spatulas and brushes in a pink depression glass sconce and glass. I have an antique inkwell that I kind of just set here because I had these huge feathers that Boogie found some time ago, and I feel like it's just very fitting, super cute. Along the top, we have some vintage decor, which I absolutely love. I love little teapots and canisters that look like little houses. This one is a little tea house. It's very cute. You put your tea in there. This one is a music box where the little trolley goes up and down. This is our vintage clock. This is a piggy bank, and this is another little vintage house canister that you can use for storage. And here is a pencil sharpener for the kiddos because, of course, it's practical. They need it, and it's right here by their little charging station, so they can't go too far making a mess. So there you have it. The entire station from top to bottom, left to right. As you can see, the top is the least reached for. The bottom is the most reached for. Now you'll notice, though, we did not go into the lower cabinets because for once in my life, I've had to create a system that works with closed storage. Now, if you are a visual person, you kind of know that that is like the death pile. All of the things get lost and die in all of the dark places because if we can't see it, it's not there. So I found a solution to using closed storage for people who are like me and need to have things visually out. You have to be able to see them to know that they exist. So when we get to that, we will address how simple it is to work with a closed system. So you'll see that everything here is from top to bottom and left to right, but the end of that would be at the worktop surface. That's where it ends for this station. And the fact that I have closed storage for once is the exact reason why I didn't go any further than that, because it will totally throw my system out of whack if I do that. So we are using this as our bottom. Again, we are using our vertical space to store things that we don't reach for too often, but we do use. So up here, I just have a nice Hank Boss art frame, and it has to do with crafty things. That's why it had to come into this space. And I actually do plan on filling all of this void space with vintage art. So that will be a thing. Also, I have a little spice rack for those tiny little ribbon rolls that we get on clearance at Hobby Lobby all the time after seasons, where they have all of the different little patterns together on one roll. And then I used a scrap wood photo ledge here and my old IKEA photo ledges. I just put two of them together side by side to create this little tiered photo ledge situation for my ribbon. Now I do love all of this ribbon and I do access it, but there are other types of ribbon that I use most often, which is vintage ribbon fabrics. So all of this is kind of like backup stuff for gift wrapping, for wrapping around junk journals, for stuff like that. It's just a little more pretty and decorative, not so often reached for. So that is all up here. And that's it because we're over the window. So there's nothing else to go under here. And for the last bit of this wall, we have this section here. So starting from the top, we have this gorgeous decorative frame. I don't know the specific type of needlework that this is, but it is stunning and it is a gorgeous piece of art. These are Hobby Lobby frames. I found a set of 3 frames at my friend's yard sale and they were $15 for all 3. So I got it for $5 and I gutted the cow art that was in here and I put this in instead, and it is a stunning piece. I am so glad that I did it. I actually have another one. It's so beautiful. I love it. And I found this actual fabric art for I think $1 or something like that, $1, $1.99 at an antique shop. Gorgeous. So I was very happy to get that. On this next rack, we have a spice rack here and it just holds my overflow glue. Now this is further to the right, because I go through glues a lot more often as far as these specific ones go. So it's not on the left rack because that's more, how can I explain? It's more like paint, stain, coloring tools, writing tools, and then glues to kind of layer over that. And this is more adhesives for different things. It's for like gluing things together. You got tacky glues and stuff like that. So it's a little bit different on both sides. Next, we have another spice rack and some wall decor. On this spice rack, we actually have some Daiso wood containers. Now, I absolutely love these little wood containers. They are natural wood, and the lid is a clear lid, and it actually slides out and slides back in. And if you can see there, there's 2 rows of those shaving brushes that I DIY'd into ink blending texturing kind of brushes. We put some furniture pads on the bottom, and we use the tops for the actual inking. It's adorable. It's a fantastic little DIY. You can find the shave brushes at Dollar Tree, all that good stuff. Next, we have our row of wood dowels. These were individual little plasticky, rubbery stamps from the Target dollar spot several years ago for $1. They had like Santa stamps on them or something. I just peeled that off and I put a ginormous furniture pad, and it adds great texture when you're inking. I absolutely love it. It's great because it's a super flat surface and it's very hard. So you can take that ink and go over high points on paper, like when you crumble paper. Adds fantastic texture, and it doesn't go too far into the actual page. I love these for that. This is just some vintage wall art here. I have a cute little vintage cuckoo mini clock, some art from friends to the channel. I have this little wall pocket here for matches, just to hold some texturing tools, some crochet needles or whatever they're called. I just got those for repurposing. Some more Daiso containers with my extra little plastic containers for my ink blending pads, an empty box for growth. On this little souvenir spoon rack, I keep all of my cutting tools, extra pokers, extra blades, extra scissors, a letter opener. The letter opener is actually my late mother-in-law's. When we were cleaning out her home, it was in her office, and her thing was butterflies. So I was like, yeah, I need that for my craft room. So I brought that over, and I just love it, the fact that it's right there. So that is it for this space. As you can see, most often reached for is down at the bottom. The least often reached for is up at the top. Even though I use it more frequently, it takes more time to go through the actual glue to need a replacement. So those stay here up at the top. And here's a full look of this little station from left to right, top to bottom. Bottom being where the work surface starts. And then we will go over the actual work surface and get into my thought process for this closed cabinet situation, because that was a new one for me. I'm not a closed cabinet kind of person, so I had to really think about how I could simplify this system to make it work flawlessly and not stress me out by losing things.